It doesn't help at all that everyone gives the same advice when it comes to talking about social awkwardness and breaking out of your shell, but I'm about to tell you why they're all wrong. Imagine that you're the greatest in the world at something, but you never had the courage to tell anyone about your talents. This would feel absolutely crushing. This is the reality that many young men and women face today. Highly disciplined, highly ambitious, hardworking, and smart, but they simply lack the sufficient social skills to get them to the next level. The common tips people give to help others socialize actually do the exact opposite. Sure, being told to make eye contact and just relax and be yourself sounds like great advice, but it never yields results. Instead of hearing the same advice over and over and over again, what if I told you that there was a much better way to socialize, where it didn't rely on simple overused advice, but instead solved the problem as a whole? I will show you the exact steps I took to become 100 times more sociable, make new friends, meet new people, and foster valuable connections. Being more social has utterly changed my life for the better, and I'm confident that it will change yours too. When it comes to being socially awkward, it can be very depressing and demotivating, leaving you with no inspiration but to do nothing and sit in your room all day, which only perpetuates these emotions. It is also extremely hard to solve this issue in today's world where everyone's connected through our phones and social media. But in spite of that, I'm going to show you how to break out of this downward spiral and become someone who actually enjoys and excels at social interaction. Step 1. Be more present. Our first step is understanding how to live in the present moment. For example, when you lie down and go to sleep at night, you're thinking about how cushy the pillows are and how soft the blanket is, and it all feels very comfortable. That is, until you start to think about your position in the bed. Everything starts to feel unnatural. You start tossing and turning, flipping the pillow around, and you just can't seem to get comfortable again until eventually you let your mind drift, think about something else, and then fall asleep. The same is true when being social. Think about talking to your best friends that you've known for years. The conversation flows seamlessly. You're reminiscing about the past, cracking the same inside joke for the millionth time, and the conversation just flows without a second thought. But when you talk to someone completely new, it feels like you have nothing to say. You start to trip over your words and become self conscious about where your hands are and eye contact. The conversation screeches to a halt, and everyone ends up with this awkward look on their face, pleading for this uncomfortable moment to end. This is all because we tend to get in our heads about our words and our actions, making everything very rigid and awkward. This is the very root of our problem. You start externalizing your thought and absorbing your surroundings. Every sentence feels 100 times easier. So how do we accomplish that? I could tell you to simply practice small talk and make sure you make eye contact, and you'll be good to go. Those steps do not even come close to solving our core issue. They actually make it much worse by getting you more in your head, trying to mentally check off certain social behaviors, making you increasingly more awkward than if you just talk to them. The solution to this is giving your full, undivided attention to the other person and actually listening to what they have to say instead of just solely thinking of your response. It helps to bring your awareness into everything around you. If you're outside talking to another person, feel the wind on your skin. Listen to the birds chirping and the cars going by. Being more mindful of your environment just makes listening to the other person that much more effortless. This all sounds very simple, but putting it into practice proves many challenges. So, how do we make it easier? Step 2. Stop social perfectionism. A study published by the National Institutes of Health looked at social anxiety as a mental health concern associated with perfectionism. It stated that perfectionistic individuals were more likely to perceive more stress and have an increased probability of increased social anxiety. And that intervention aimed at mindfulness and emotional regulation may help reduce level of stress and social anxiety, particularly in individuals with high perfectionism. Let me break this down. I found that when I got in my head over a social interaction or overthought everything, it was because I was always trying to get it right, so the other person didn't think I was awkward or weird. This always led me into awkward situations until I realized that there was no right or wrong answer to every conversation. It's not the end of the world if people think you're weird for doing or saying the things you do. As an addition to this, you'll find people that you actually love to spend time with just by accepting the fact that every interaction doesn't need to be perfect. Close your eyes. Imagine your life as a role playing game. In those games, there are a multitude of skills and professions that you can gain experience in and level up to unlock different perks or put skill points into your character, giving you different things to do. If your character is at 0, you have very little options on what you want to do, and none of them are even cool until later in the game. Life is not much different than these systems, which means we can do this by simply choosing things that we want to do and getting them done. And it doesn't quite matter what they are. Everything will give you experiences that you can eventually share with others. Anything will give you experiences that you can eventually share with others and create conversations out of. Whether it be getting a job, pursuing higher education, or even just going out and having fun with the people that you already know. This brings me to my next step. Step 4, go to where the people are. Simply throwing yourself in an environment with lots of people you haven't met before gives you great opportunities to practice your social skills. Attending certain events or going to different places that you enjoy with your friends gives you a space full of like-minded strangers. This ensures that you and the guy standing 10 feet away from you have at least one thing in common. This can help in a multitude of ways. When you begin to feel more comfortable, I suggest that you branch out to new places or events that you've never been to before. You'd be surprised at the wide range of people you meet. As of now, you may not be feeling 100% confident in yourself. You've become more present. You're not trying to perfect every single social interaction. You've crushed a multitude of goals and you talk to a bunch of new people. But after all of that, there's still something missing from your social personality. Pride. Step 5. Build your physique. The absolute best thing you can do for your confidence and pride is to build a respectable physique. It doesn't have to be on par with Chris Bumstead or Sam Sulek, but just a little bit of muscle acts like a social steroid. In my experience, after around 6 months of going to the gym, I'd barely built any muscle, my personality hadn't changed a bit, but people started treating me differently simply because of how I look. And it wasn't even a drastic change, just because my arms were the slightest bit bigger and my chest filled out my shirt a little more. It made all the difference when it came to meeting new people. Once you notice people treating you with a little more respect, something just clicks in your head and you become more confident in yourself. This creates a positive social feedback loop. After you begin to incorporate these habits into your days, weeks, and eventually months, you'll begin to notice a huge shift in the way you live. Not only will you meet new people and make some amazing friends, but more opportunities will enter your life that you simply didn't have access to before. When I first realized how much I was holding myself back by being antisocial, I knew I needed to make a change. Before I started to make changes in my life, I used to be borderline nonverbal at work, and I used to hide my face with a mask just because of how shy I was. I particularly remember this one time where I went out with this girl and her friends that I never met before. I was so far out of my element and had no idea how to start conversations with brand new people that I never met before. I ended up not saying a single sentence the entire day I was with them. Instead, I spent all of that time in an agonizing mental pain arguing with myself on what I should do or say. Of course, this only led me to being more awkward than what I would do if I was just present. The day after, I was eating on my lunch break and I was watching some random YouTube video about confidence. But before I got up to go clock back in, I sat there for a moment, thinking about the day before, where I was frozen in thought. And from that moment, I decided I'm done. So I literally yanked my mask off, threw it in the trash, and just made a promise to myself that I would change. So I began meditating and journaling to become more mindful. I started to make small talk with the people at my gym and made it a top priority to go out with my friends more, simply to just meet new people. And all of these tiny little moments with strangers helped to build me into the person that I am today. It was those same strangers that ended up being my lovely girlfriend and my best friends who I shared deep connections with. Had I not decided that I was going to make a change, I would still be that random shy kid in a mask regretful that I never got to find a girlfriend or share lifelong connections with my friends, do yourself a favor. Make the decision to change today. Just say, I'm done.